On May 19, 2012, at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, hundreds of climbers were ready to make their final push to the summit of Everest. In a mostly male group, a 31-year-old female climber suddenly joined the line. Her name, which represents the goddess of power, ends with the letters Y and A. She comes from Toronto, Canada, and is married to Shriya Shah-Klorfine, a piano player who she met while working as a steward on a cruise ship. She has explored many different paths in her life, but her lifelong dream has always been to climb to the top of Everest. But unlike many people who aspire to become mountaineers and conquer the world's tallest peak, her story was unique. She didn't train as an alpinist or a mountaineer before attempting the deadliest peak. Instead, she only climbed a few smaller mountains that were less than 7,000 meters high, while Everest stands at over 8,800 meters. It's also a widely accepted rule to successfully climb a few other 8,000-meter peaks before attempting Everest. But she was a bold individual, determined to achieve whatever she aimed for. Her husband even said this about her: when she set her sights on something, nothing could stop her. She was as strong-willed as they come. And Bruce was absolutely right. On May 19, 2019, after many hours of climbing, she finally reached the summit of Everest, fulfilling her lifelong dream. It was an incredible moment for her and her family. However, all the 8,000-meter peaks have their risks, and sadly, some climbers must lose their lives on their quest to the summit in order for the others to succeed. And in this season, our female Canadian climber was claimed as one of the victims by the mighty mountain, and interestingly, a Japanese female climber succeeded, which we'll discuss later in this video. But what went wrong? What happened to her at the top of Everest? Why didn't she come back? Let's dive in and understand the tragic story of the powerful Shriya Shah-Klorfine. On May 19, 2012, after 19 hours of continuous climbing, Shriya finally reached the summit of Everest. It might seem easy, but Shriya worked very hard to get there. Shriya's Everest journey started in Kathmandu, Nepal, where she was born in 1976. When she was 9, a helicopter trip to Mount Everest with her parents ignited her fascination with climbing the mountain. Later, she moved to Canada, became a citizen, and pursued her passion for adventure and travel, all while building her career as a businesswoman. Over the years, Shriya had already climbed several notable peaks, including Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, Mount Elbrus in Russia, and Aconcagua in Argentina. Her ultimate dream was to reach the summit of Mount Everest, which she saw as the highest achievement of her climbing career. Shriya's determination to climb Mount Everest was unbreakable. For months, she focused on preparing for the climb, working tirelessly with a team of expert guides and fellow climbers who would help her navigate the mountain's dangerous terrain. She underwent rigorous physical training, which included intense running, weightlifting, and altitude training. Shriya knew the risks but was driven by her dream. She hiked with a heavy 20-kilogram backpack near her home in Canada and trained in karate, rock climbing, and cardio with her team in Nepal. She even had to learn basic skills like using crampons. But despite the difficulties, she pushed herself to the limit and successfully summited the highest peak in the world. However, while she achieved her dream of reaching the top, it seemed she might not have fully prepared for the difficult descent. Because on the evening of the same day on May 19th, just a few hundred meters from the summit, Shriya Shah collapsed while descending. Her last words, later shared by the guides who had tried to help her, show how desperate she was in her final moments. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, she couldn't be saved, and this was the end for Shriya. But how did this happen? Shriya seemed to be doing well, and what were her desperate final words? It was later revealed that a series of poor decisions made by Shriya led to this tragic outcome. Let's find out what happened. On that Saturday, the mountain was packed with climbers. Adventurers driven by adrenaline kept climbing into the afternoon, even past the safe turnaround time of 2:30 p.m. Despite dangerous winds that could blow them off the mountain, over 150 climbers pushed to reach the summit, hoping to take advantage of a brief spell of good weather after a tough climbing season. Among them was Shriya Shah, who didn't have the experience needed for such a dangerous climb. She had never climbed an 8,000-meter peak before and didn't even know how to put crampons on her boots. The situation was so risky that only the most experienced mountaineers understood the true dangers. That's why Russell Bryce, an experienced mountaineer and expedition leader, pulled all his guides, clients, and Sherpas off Everest that season. His company's reputation took a hit, with some thinking he overreacted. But did he really? You'll find out soon. Secondly, during and after training, even her guide advised her not to attempt the summit, calling her a subpar climber. But the allure of the summit was too strong for her to ignore, and she didn't see her own weaknesses.
No, I spend money, and my goal is to reach to summit, and then anyhow I will go. So in this case we cannot do anything,
said Thakuri, the main guide who changed his mind about guiding Shriya to the summit before the expedition started. Despite the main guide's warnings that she might not make it to the summit and back safely, Shriya was determined to reach the top. Apparently her determination was driven by the pressure of a second mortgage on her home after failed fundraising events and donations, as well as her lifelong dream. This is why, despite her guide's warnings and her worsening condition, she pressed on. It was an irrational decision, driven by her emotions. For some reason, perhaps due to limited financial resources, Shriya decided to hire a new guiding company called Utmost Adventure Trekking, paying a lower fee of $36,000 to $40,000. Although the company offers various hiking and trekking activities, it was later suspected that Everest expeditions were not their specialty, and they may not have successfully led any client to the top of Everest before. If that's true, they seriously lacked experience. Thirdly, Thakuri, her main guide, who was now part of another expedition, had already reached the summit with a different group and was coming down when he saw Shriya at the Hillary step. It was getting late, and she was still going up. Thakuri checked her oxygen level and told her to turn back, but she refused. She said that he and the other guides could go back if they wanted, but she was going to keep climbing. After several unsuccessful attempts to convince her, the guide kindly gave her an extra oxygen cylinder and let her continue her ascent. In my opinion, this part is truly a game changer. A woman with no prior experience and who was also labeled a below-average climber during training was advised by her main Sherpa guide not to climb Everest this season. He warned that her lack of preparation could lead to disaster for her and her Sherpas on the treacherous slopes of Everest. Despite this, she ignored his advice. The main Sherpa guide decided to join a different group and ascended with them. On his way down, he encountered Shriya at Hillary Step, well past the safe turnaround time of 2:30 p.m., while she was still climbing up. He checked her oxygen levels, and they were seriously low, and hence strongly urged her to stop and descend, but she refused and continued her ascent. Now, who could you possibly blame here? Shriya or her guide? So far, it sounds like the plot of a Hollywood horror movie, doesn't it? But wait, there's more. The climax is yet to come. In a daring achievement, Shriya reached the summit after an exhausting 19-hour climb and surprisingly stayed there to enjoy the stunning views for over 30 minutes. However, she didn't realize that her ascent was fraught with danger. She had started using her oxygen supply earlier than usual, had an inadequate amount, and spent an unusually long time in the deadliest part of the mountain, above 8,000 meters, known as the death zone. In this area, the body doesn't get enough oxygen to function properly and starts to shut down. These risky actions created a very dangerous situation. To make matters worse, Shriya didn't prepare well for the difficult descent, highlighting her impulsive and risky decision-making. On May 19th, Shriya and her team were descending from the summit of Mount Everest. Just a few hundred meters from the top, disaster struck. As the evening sky darkened and strong winds blew around them, Shriya succumbed to altitude sickness, a condition that can easily be fatal at such heights. Altitude sickness is an insidious illness that grows stronger over time until it finally makes itself known, and by then, it's often too late. One of the Sherpas who was with Shriya during her descent said she was in a very serious condition and needed constant support to keep moving. She could barely move on her own and required help from both Sherpas just to take a few steps. Each step was a struggle, as if her legs were about to give out, and she risked falling down the dangerous mountain slopes.
उड्नु भन्दाखेरि तपाईको दुईजनाले समायो भने उहाँ जिउ चाहिँ ठिङ्ग्रिएर चाहिँ बस्न सक्नुहुन्थ्यो अब एकछिन चाहिँ अब त्यो तर खुट्टा चल्यो कि त्यो लडी प्यारालाइज भएको जस्तो नै भइसक्यो त्यो लगभग.
As Shriya and her Sherpas made their way down the mountain, an unsettling silence surrounded them, and then suddenly she stopped moving and speaking, making the Sherpas realize something was terribly wrong. It was already 10 p.m. on May 19th, and she had been climbing for an exhausting 27 hours straight. Despite their desperate efforts to help her, she remained unresponsive and continued to slip away until she took her last breath. On May 19th, 2012, Shriya Shah-Klorfine lost her life at 8,400 meters on Mount Everest's south side. She was among 10 people who died that climbing season, including 4 who perished on the same day. Her body was found just 250 meters from Camp 4 on the Nepal side, where she took her last breath at 33 years old. Those with her during her final moments heard her desperate words, "Please, save me." Despite the Sherpas' heroic rescue efforts, Shriya's determination and bravery led her to make a series of bad decisions and take risks that ultimately resulted in her untimely death. In the aftermath of the unfortunate incident, Russell Bryce said, "Over the years, we've become too successful in climbing Everest. It seems almost automatic that people can reach the summit. But that's not true. It can backfire, and that's exactly what happened this year." So what do you think? Was Russell Bryce right to cancel his expedition that season and bring back all his clients, guides, and Sherpas, or did he deceive his clients? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ironically, on the same day Shriya Shah-Klorfine sadly died attempting to climb Mount Everest, Tame Watanabe, a 73-year-old from Japan, made history as the oldest woman to reach the summit. She surpassed her own record from 10 years earlier. The different outcomes for these climbers show just how crucial preparation, skilled guides, and heeding Sherpa's advice are when climbing Everest. Shriya Shah-Klorfine was a remarkable adventurer who chased her dreams with passion. Although her journey ended sadly, her story still inspires us. Shriya's life teaches us to follow our dreams, even when the journey is tough. Let her courage and determination motivate us to keep pushing towards our own goals. We'd love to hear what lessons you've learned from Shriya's story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep reaching for greatness.